Good morning. Just starting my day, I decided I would just sit down here, press record, and pick up this book again. I got this book in a small mountain town in California. It is the Reader's Digest of Wit and Humor from 1958. Read through this before. I'm going to read some more jokes and just try and figure out, do the jokes hold up? If they don't hold up, why not? If they do hold up, how so? And I think laughter is very powerful, and I really like laughing. And I think studying what made people laugh through time is a worthy cause on the pursuit of making people laugh today. So let's just flip somewhere random in the book and start reading. All right. Wait, I think I've already flipped to that page. Let's go to a new one. Whoa, I've seen this one too. That's weird. These are like creased in certain ways where you just end up on the same one. All right, here we go. Couldn't have been here before. This section is called The Perfect Squelch, and I'm going to read through these if they continue to have something to them. The Civic Club's discussion had hit a snarl on the question of devoting funds to a project which might be operated at a loss. Gentlemen, no matter how much good it may do, the plan is unbusinesslike, said one member. Let me warn you that I never remain identified with any organization that operates with a deficit. There was a long hush until another member asked, You're still an American citizen, aren't you? Okay. Zingo. That's a political zingo. And I think my inflection might have confused the joke there. So this guy was basically like, I'm not a part of anything that loses money. And then someone else piped up, Well, you're still an American citizen, aren't you? Haha. Now that's a good old-fashioned joke about how the American economy is kind of a scam and just bleeds money, and I wonder what our debt was back then. Right now we're trillions of dollars in debt, but back then, who knows? Next, a local busybody. Actually, I'm going to Google that. I'm genuinely curious. Okay, yikes. Damn, we were doing rough back then too. Okay, in 1958, our debt was $276 billion. My God. It's only going up, baby. Nuts. All right, back to the funnies, back to the jokes. A local busybody, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, asked an expectant mother point blank whether she was going to have a baby. Oh, goodness, no, the young woman said pleasantly. I'm just carrying this for a friend. Okay. Okay. I think the joke there is that no one would get impregnated just to pass the baby off to someone else, so therefore, kind of funny. Kind of funny, I don't know. Amusing is a better word, perhaps. On a train during the tour of the United States, an Englishman fell into conversation with a Texan, who embarked on a long recitation of the wonders of the Lone Star State. Maybe you didn't realize it while you were going through my state, the Texan wound up, but all of Great Britain could fit into one corner of it. I dare say it could, said the Englishman dryly, and wouldn't it do wonders for the place? Ha ha. Okay, that's some banter. That's some international banter. I believe the joke there is that the Englishman is so proud of his country that he thinks, even though geographically Texas is so much bigger, it would benefit from having Great Britain inside of it. Okay, okay. I haven't laughed yet. These aren't like remarkably funny, but this is also a very big book, you know? Like they're not all gonna hit. You kind of just gotta throw some in there for numbers and content. But let's move on to the next one. A mother who wanted to help her 10-year-old with her reading was told flatly by the girl's teacher, "You'll only retard her progress if you teach her yourself." "Perhaps," said the mother, "but will it be all right for me to read her diploma to her when she graduates?" All right. The word retard was pretty funny. No, I'm kidding. Um, retard. That used to be a word you could say whenever, but now you'll get in trouble. But it's back. I say retard. Retard a lot. Retard. Um, okay, I think the joke here is that the mother is a smother and does everything for her kid. And the teacher's like, "Hey, you gotta chill. You can't do that." And then the mom's like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. But can I still read her diploma to her when she graduates?" I don't know. Just throws the smother aspect right back in your face at the end. Come on, I'm trying to laugh here. Let's keep going. Beatrice Lilly wrote to the owner of a Bermuda estate with a view to renting it for a vacation. I need to read these better. Beatrice Lilly wrote to the owner of a Bermuda estate with a view to renting it for a vacation. That might be a typo, actually. He answered, "My place is on a small island, so you will need my boatman to ferry you to Hamilton and back. The estate rents for $25,000, but with the boatman's services included, the price will be $30,000. Kindly rush photograph of boatman," Miss Lilly cabled. Okay. Okay. All right, that's kind of funny. Cabled. What is that? A telegram? Probably. I'm not sure. But let's see. Let's dissect this. So she's gonna rent this estate on this island, and she's expecting to rent the estate for 25,000. But with the services of the boatman, it'll be. This is pretty funny actually. $30,000. Um, and she said, "Get me a picture of this guy." That's funny. That's funny. That implies that she's gonna she's gonna get her money's worth out of this boatman if the photo comes back how she's hoping it seems. That's funny. I'm gonna mark that one down as funny. Next, at a party, one guest completely monopolized the conversation, much to the annoyance of the hostess's elderly mother. By the time he launched into a story of his experiences during the war, she was bored to the point of retaliation. "I was torpedoed in the Pacific," he began. "In fact, I lived for a week on a can of sardines." "Really?" examined the exasperated old lady. "Weren't you afraid of falling off?" Okay. Witty. Witty. It's a book of wit and humor, and that was pretty witty. Guess the joke there was that he said, "I lived for a week on a can of sardines." And the old lady was like, "Weren't you afraid of falling off?" As though he was actually existing on the sardines can. Okay. We're moving in the right direction, I'd say. During a campaign against excessive speed at one of the larger naval institutions in California, a Marine private stopped a military jeep for exceeding the speed limit and politely asked the driver, a Navy commander, for his operator's permit. The Marine proceeded to make out the traffic violation certificate. "Private," the commander roared, "do you know who I am? I'm the executive commander of this base, and I'm en route to a golf engagement with your commanding officer, and this will undoubtedly make me late." "I'm sorry, sir," the Marine replied, "but I'm riding as fast as I can." Okay. I think that plays on power dynamics a bit. Obviously, the commander was expecting the small little private to let him off, and that did not happen. And the joke is that you think he's gonna force that to happen, and then the ignorant private continues to write the ticket anyway. Okay, subverts expectations, has the makeup of a joke. These probably hit really hard like 60 years ago. Um, who knows? At a dinner party, the hostess, whose kittenish ways were most annoying, produced a family album. This, she said coyly, holding up a mother and child picture, is myself 28 years ago. A guest examined the photograph, then asked slyly, "Who's the baby on your lap?" Ha ha ha! Now that's a good old fashioned zingo. Love that. Love that. Obviously, the joke there is that the lady was very proud of her youth and likes to be cutesy and stuff, and was flexing a baby photo, and someone aged her another 20 years by cracking a joke that she's the older lady in the photo. Very good. I'm liking that one. This next section is called Age-Old Stories. Here we go. Here's a poem to start. Age is a funny thing, cherished in a tree, and cheese, and furniture, and wine. Most anything but me. All right, that is true. When you get older, you don't have as much fun. You're not as attractive. Your physical youth declines. You're less useful to society unless you're a storyteller. I do believe, let me just step away from the jokes for a bit. I believe you can retain value until the day you die, as long as you are mentally functional and are able to communicate and willing to communicate. You can be a teacher and a storyteller for future generations until the day you die, or until you lose your faculties. But just pushing back on that poem a bit, just because you get old doesn't mean you're useless. But it's a joke. I'm taking it too serious. Here we go. Miss Yehudi Menuhin confessing her age. I'm 38. I always tell the truth, even if it is a little embarrassing to some of my younger girlfriends of the same age. Okay. I don't really get it. I'll be honest. I'm trying to make it make sense. I think maybe she's not actually 38. Or she is 38 and hangs out with younger people. I don't know. Obviously, the joke there is that she's warping her age in some way, but that's a lot to think about. So I'm going to move on to the next. Miss Rosina Sherwood, mother of the late playwright Robert E. Sherwood, once observed, "It feels good to reach 94, except for seeing your children become depressingly middle-aged." Okay, that just kind of feels like a statement. I don't think that's a joke. I really don't think that's a joke. Okay. Woman to beauty shop receptionist. I don't intend to grow old gracefully. I'm fighting every step of the way. Amusing. You know, I'm not getting old without a fight. Interesting. Next, Gracie Allen. My husband will never chase another woman. He's too fine, too decent, too old. Haha, that's good. It's a husband and wife zingo. She's basically saying, my husband has aged his way out of the dating pool, so I'm not worried about him cheating on me. Interesting. Next. Every time a little boy went to a playmate's house, he found the friend's grandmother deeply engrossed in her Bible. Finally, his curiosity got the better of him. Why do you suppose your grandmother reads the Bible so much? He asked. I'm not sure, said his friend, but I think it's because she's cramming for her finals. Okay. That's good. Because she's on her way out. She's elderly. She's going to see Jesus soon, and the joke through the eye of a child is that she's going to be tested on her biblical knowledge when she gets to heaven soon. That is funny. Next. At a party, I hardly recognized an old friend, for she was wearing glasses. When I remarked about it, she replied, "Oh, I've needed them for a long time, but I've just reached the age where my curiosity is greater than my vanity." That's funny. That's funny and witty. If someone dropped that in real life, I would instantly be like, whoa, you're intelligent and fun and funny. That's cool. But yeah, the joke there is that she basically handicapped herself for years because she didn't want to wear glasses because it would make her less pretty. But now she's at the point where she's so goddamn curious, she threw the glasses on. Okay, next. One of our friends had undergone a serious operation and was still in a coma. Her worried husband stood at the foot of her bed. Well, said the nurse reassuringly, at least her age is on her side. She's not so young, said the husband. She's 43. At this point, the patient moved slightly, but quietly, but firm. What the hell? At this point, the patient moved slightly and quietly, but firmly murmured, 42. From then on, she improved steadily. Okay. I think the joke is that she bought herself a year because her husband forgot how old she was or something. Something like that. Next, on his 70th birthday, William Allen White, famous publisher of the Emporia Gazette, was asked how it felt to be 70. Well, Mr. White said wistfully, today the girls come and sit on the side of your chair and pat you on the head and look down at you in reverence because they're not afraid of you any longer. And that's the hell of it. Okay. Yeah. Good. Got it. Okay, let's go to a new section. This one's called Oblique Angles. I'm skipping a big story. Maybe I'll read a big story one day, but that's a lot of work. The 4-year-old was busy playing in his yard when a grown-up stopped by. Hi, Mike, she said. Where's your friend Jason? Away, he replied. Well, don't you miss him? Yes, Mike admitted, and then, meditating darkly on the number of times Jason had beaten him, he added, but I like missing him. That's a joke about getting bullied. Once a friend of Tallulah Bankhead's was asked by a magazine interviewer, tell me, off the record, did you ever have an affair with Tallulah? Well, said the friend, she'd consider me a cad for saying so, but I didn't. That's very funny. Very funny, honestly. Snatch of overheard dialogue. You know what they call people who use the rhythm system of birth control? No, what? Parents. The rhythm system of birth control. I'm guessing that's the pull-out method. We've just changed the name today because rhythm, you're trying to catch it on the way out. And the joke is that you call them parents because it doesn't always work. All right. Hey, they knew what was going on in 1958, clearly. Next, I was a nurse assisting a very competent surgeon during an operation when suddenly the patient started to hemorrhage. Anxiety mounted as we seemed to be unable to locate the source of the bleeding, and to make matters worse, the first assistant panicked and blurted out that maybe we should call in the chief of surgical staff for help. The surgeon, without looking up from his work, made a retort that broke the tension and probably led to a speedier repair of the trouble. What would I want to call him in for? He asked quietly. He never gets into trouble. He wouldn't know how to get us out of it. Okay. All right. In connection with a story my friend was reading to her second graders, she asked each one if he thought he lived near the school or far away, and how long it took him to get home. She couldn't help smiling at one little boy's answer. I must live pretty close, he said seriously, because when I get home, my mother always says, good grief, are you home already? It's a joke about a little boy clearly being a pest. His mother not looking forward to him getting home. The old doctor had never refused a call, from rich or poor, but now he was tired. Have you any money? He asked a midnight caller. Certainly he had money. Then go to the new doctor. I'm too old a man to get out of bed for anybody who can pay for it. Interesting. I don't know if that's like a selfless thing or a self-deprecating thing, or, well, can't think about it too much. My father, the late Frederick Lewis Allen, editor of Harper's, was somewhat farsighted. One evening at a friend's house, my stepmother, Agnes Rogers Allen, noticed that Dad was spending a great deal of time with a very pretty girl. On the way home, Agnes remarked, "Well, that was certainly an attractive girl you were with most of the evening." "Was she really?" replied my father. "I didn't have my glasses, and I never got far enough away from her to see what she looked like." That's funny, I think. Yeah, that's funny, that's funny. It's a joke about farsightedness or nearsightedness. I don't know which is which. But he was so close to her, he never got a good look at her. Next, and last. In a speech in Paris, General Alfred Grunther, President Eisenhower's former chief of staff, discussed the large numbers of people who had been experting on the proper way to set up defenses against the Russian threat. "There are two professions in which the amateur is far better than the professional," said Grunther. "The second of these is military strategy." Let me guess. The first one is prostitution. These guys, these crazy old guys, they were on it. 80 years ago, they were on it. Alright, we're going to close the book. That was a pretty good sesh. Maybe I'll do this more. It's just nice to read. Feels like it gets the juices flowing a bit. And like I said, trying to get funnier, so might as well study what was funny back in the day. Once again, this was The Reader's Digest Treasury of Wit and Humor from 1958.